This is Kelly with attempt number 4, I believe. Lab 3, Maze 2. I kept running into problems on the return trip where I knew something was going on with the light sensor and it was detecting a value that was its control value, which is supposed to be the finish box, which tells it to do a 180 turn, drive forward, and then do an arc circle to find the other balls. The light sensors on the LEGO NXT, I don't know why they're so finicky. I have found as the battery gets less and less, I am using just AA batteries this time, they start to change sometimes. The values just change and I have to constantly go in the view screen or the debugger on the computer and change those values. So I had to change my control value. This time it should make it around. But this is the NXT based on the Ball Hunter bot. Got a light sensor here, motorized claw. The light sensor detects the balls, and the motorized claw is activated. The light sensor here detects the floor values, and again, this can be tricky, but typically the black gold box is easier to detect the value between that and the floor. A little bit trickier is the white finish box and the floor. Typically I read the values off the floor and I read the values off the gold box or the finish box. You add those two together and divide by 2 to get a control value. But right now the floor, the spot that was setting it off, was light reflected at 64%, and the finish box is actually at 68%. And my control value was 64 because previously the floor was reading 58%. So I had to adjust that value. I've set it now to 67%. I followed along the whole floor, checked the light values, and I didn't see anything at that percentage. So I'm hoping that will work, and we will try attempt number 4 at Maze 2. These are just styrofoam balls. When you've tried to code and program and run a robot 60 times, you get frustrated, and I was throwing the balls down a couple of times, and I found that if you hit them hard enough, it makes a little bit of a flat spot, so they kind of stay easier. So not exactly sure how the simulation worked with the other balls inside the maze. I feel like the NXT robot is extremely big and bulky compared to the simulation robot. But the other issue I have is, running into the balls on the inside of the maze, especially the ones on the left side of the maze where the robot initially is traveling. Now he should reach the goal box, detect it, release the ball, and do a 180 turn. And I have it set to turn left and move forward. The turn is tighter here because it's a little bit harder seeking this wall with the ultrasonic on this side. I missed it. So typically, if one turn gets off and messed up, they all end up being off, no matter how hard you try to fix it. The 180 should have been this way. Find the next ball. design on this robot uses AA batteries because it had a flat bottom base. The rechargeable battery that comes with the NXT sticks out about a 1/2 inch. I didn't hardly have any Lego pieces. I just had the basic education set, and I was running out of beams and all kinds of pieces, so I was trying to make do with what I had. And as a result, I did put the AA batteries in, but I found that I've had to change the batteries now about 3 times, and there are 6 batteries in there, so that's been about 18 batteries I've gone through. And unfortunately, I find out that as the batteries are wearing, before the NXT even warns me that the batteries are failing, the light sensor values start to fluctuate quite a bit. So when the robot inadvertently does something that it's not supposed to do, I find that that's because the values have changed. And if they change 1 or 2%, it doesn't have as much of an effect as changing 10%, which has happened. And I don't understand the ultrasonic, why it takes so much finesse to work with it. I have the distance set for 18 centimeters, but it gets much closer than that. I guess the loops involved just require so much checking that it just allows it to get closer and closer. Now the loop that the robot is set to right now is actually on a 4 loop, which is set to repeat 4 times. Initially I was off by 1, and I figured that out even when the robot was crashing. I don't understand why it doesn't find the wall in that situation. It seemed to be lined up, and I don't know why it takes it so long. Current on this was calculated correctly. Looks like it was not. I did use the same formula to try to get that arc turn. Huh? Sensed it. following this circle that I have here. It's not quite wide enough. Oh, the arc. It should find its last ball and make its way out of the maze, obviously, with a lot of help from me. Sometimes it finds the wall on an angle and sometimes it does not. I don't know what determines it will find it. It will find the black box. It's working on its return trip since it has potentially dropped off 5 of these. It should make its way back to the finish box and stop. I don't know if increasing the distance that the detection is on the return trip would help it. It did pretty good on that one, but on some of them it seems to get awfully close to the wall. And it's not making the last turn. And it stopped after 5 attempts.